Hey, everybody. Welcome. We are ACEDS. I am Maribel Rivera. I haven't been with you in a while, but this is We Are ACEDS, and this is all about what's happening in the legal industry, what's happening around legal tech, what's happening in e-discovery, and how ACEDS members and our community should keep up with all of that and know what's happening. Today, I'm talking with Jim Sullivan, founder and CEO of eDiscoveryAI, and eDiscoveryAI president Tom Palladino. Between the two of them, they've seen just about every kind of e-discovery project, all types of litigation support challenges that you can imagine, and probably a few we'd all rather forget. With deep roots in legal, technology, AI, and high-pressure document review, they've built eDiscoveryAI to help legal teams move faster, get clarity earlier, and avoid wasting time on irrelevant data. Just in time for ILTACON, they're launching some new features within their ECI solution, and they're going to tell us a little bit more about what ECI is. And they've got some new functionality within their ECI solution called Case Elements. They say that's going to help reviewers figure out the who, what, when of a matter before you get lost in the document pile. So without further ado, hi, Jim. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Maribel. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good morning. It's great to see you both. And I'm matching with the eDiscoveryAI colors, so I came uniformed. So let's get into it. Let's start with your backgrounds. You've both been around for a long time in the industry, between predictive coding, big case operations, and a few thousand privilege calls. How did eDiscoveryAI come together? Jim, do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually started right out of law school doing doc review, like a lot of people did, and I struggled with it. Let's say, I saw a lot of things that could be improved, and so after that, I basically really embraced the technology side of eDiscovery. I worked at Kroll on Track for about a decade, really just being a technology evangelist, supporting predictive coding cases, doing analytics projects, really just trying to find ways to improve the document review process, make it a lot less tedious, a lot less linear, using technology to save time and money on that. And in my experience there was just a lot of issues that we encountered and problems that we had to solve, on those Thanksgiving weekends where you spend the entire day working in the back room with your family. And I left the industry in 2018, and once we started using AI tools, we saw that they could solve a lot of those problems. A lot of the things that we struggled with in the past, a lot of things that predictive coding wasn't really great at, AI just excels at. And that's where we saw this opportunity as let's offer AI tools, let's build AI solutions to fill a lot of those needs that we've had in the past, and looking forward to the future and what AI can do. So we launched about 2 years ago now, but a lot of experience in the space, a lot of experience in the industry, and us and our, and as well as our entire team. A lot of experience with technology, TAR, analytics projects.
Awesome. Well, and that kind of leads us into Tom joining you, because he's been an entrepreneur in this space for a long time. Tom, you want to share a little bit about, why did you join eDiscoveryAI?
Yeah, I was a co-founder of Night Owl Global, and I did that for a long time, and we were very tech forward. I came as an IT tech person, to that company, and I got to see everything, right? Sad to say, all the way back from scanning, through to using all the way to where we are today, and I'd left the industry for a year. I felt like it was kind of played out, and then of course Gen AI comes along, and I was super curious about that. And, I, through mutual friends, because we're both in Minneapolis, I hadn't known Jim before. And they said, well, I know a guy who's doing the same thing you did, and I said, well, you don't know what I did. So you can't know anybody who did what I did. So, and it turns out that it's Jim and his team. And I was super excited about what they were doing. I felt like re-energized that this was going to be a big step forward. I still think I'm no less excited about it. I think I'm a year and a half now, Jim, right? Have you been dealing with me for that long, right? So it's been a lot of fun. and I think I just think we're a little bit different, and I want it to be that. I mean, we're service people, right? We came from tech-enabled service companies, right? And we like working cases, and we like solving problems, but we're in a software company now, and we get to solve those problems for people. And I think if there's kind of two principles around us that I'm really excited about, and I always was one of them is there's no old tech, in this company. It's all Gen AI, and things get released, and Jim and the team are already experimenting with it. The next morning, I read the news in the morning. He says I tested that model last night, right? So that's like a fun environment. So yeah, there's no legacy tech to deal with. We're just dealing with what's coming, and we want it to be everywhere. We want to be able to work across any partner, any law firm, any corporate client, any government agency, that needs this. We don't have one place that we want to be, confined to. We want to be able to work with everybody where the needs are in the process. And I think that's really exciting.
Awesome. Thank you. So I was digging through the website and digging through lots of what you've been putting out there in your marketing materials, in your emails, at the shows that you've been at, and you're positioning early case intelligence as the next step beyond early case assessment. Now, we all know what ECA is, what early case assessment is, but what does that actually mean? Why does that matter to litigation support teams, e-discovery attorneys? What is ECA broken, or is it just due for an upgrade? Jim?
I mean, everything can be, upgraded, right?
Yeah.
We're all, have a lot of experience with traditional ECA tools. We understand the ECA process. And what one of the biggest opportunities with generative AI that we see is the ability to get insights into your data faster. And, we're not just talking about clustering your documents or, being able to do threading. This is getting you real information about your data set, identifying what topics are being discussed, identifying what issues are being discussed, identify where the facts show around different issues, and doing that right up front. So a lot of times people have the traditional view of ECA and what things are done in the ECA process, and our stance is more about we want to get you as much information about the issues you care about as possible, as fast as we possibly can. And so what we're able to do now is, within 72 hours of a new project starting, getting a lot more of this information, getting a lot more of the facts of the case, understanding your issues. So, I think one of the biggest differences between our early case intelligence offering and traditional ECA is that ours is really focused on your case. So most ECA tools have been kind of passive in that it didn't know what your case was when it's processing. It's doing clustering, it's doing threading, it's doing communication graphs without knowledge of your case. And now we're taking it with AI, and we're actually taking, what's your case about, and having the AI understanding the issues that you're looking for, and actually going into the data set and reviewing your documents and classifying and sorting them and grouping them and providing analysis in how they impact your case, how they affect the issues that you care about, not just in general.
Awesome. So you've got a new functionality, right? That's coming out, and you're going to debut it at ILTACon. I know you've been talking to individuals about it. I saw at the Masters Conference. You're talking about case elements. So what does it do, and how does it change what review teams can see from day one? And then, so Tom, I'm going to ask you that, and then if Jim, you want to give us a real use case, a fire drill matter, or tight deadlines and too much data, how does it help? So Tom, can you tell us a little bit more about case elements?
Yeah, I'm really excited about case elements. If our initial early case intelligence platform was about, the data and the triage of it, which it really is, right? It gets past prompt engineering and allows you to just put in a memo to understand a lot about, can be a big set of documents, could be a small set of documents, but really putting those into categories that make sense with your case, as Jim said. I think case elements is that next step. Now draw insights, from that, from what you've seen in all the data. And now we're out of the realm of just a doc by doc decision and really into who are the key people in this, in this matter. What is the data telling us? What are the key events with a whole timeline? What are the key documents? You gave us 1 million documents. We cut it down to 200,000 that look relevant to the system, and we categorized all those. But what are the 100 that really matter? Because we're all in this business, and really what we do is condense, right? We're coming from however many documents you have to what are eventually going to be exhibits. What are you going to talk about in your case? No one talks about 200,000 documents. People talk about 50 documents. What happens when in 3 days you're already potentially looking at those 50 documents, or at least 30 of the 50, right? And really, I think it's very, very interesting to see how this changes how anybody would approach an investigation, a litigation, any matter that you have. When you have that much, information, and I agree right now, won't be your complete picture. No one's going to tell you everything about a case in 72 hours, but this is as close as I've ever seen it, and so how does that change your calculus when you're dealing with, outside counsel, when you're thinking about case strategy and all these things so early? I think it's very interesting. I think it's going to change the approach that people take, to cases. And Jim will have any number of examples, because we've been using this quite a lot. It's definitely our most popular solution right now. But Jim, even this week, that conversation with large corporation that really, has a big matter kicking off, they think it's going to be 2 years of discovery eventually, but there's 500 gigs in hand today. They are dying to know by Monday or Tuesday, like, what is going on in this data. You know what I mean? And that's just a conversation we had yesterday. So, I mean, you can kind of, Jim, I'll leave it to you to reference any others, but I just think it's like every day I'm seeing these kinds of things, these real world examples.
Awesome. Jim, anything you want to add to that? Is there another example, or do you want to build off of that example?
I mean, I think that's a really good use case, and what we're going to see a lot, where we're just wanting to uncover information about our case, what's going on, what who's involved, what's happening. But a lot of the use cases we're seeing are kind of traditionally already being done, right? A lot of people came to us and said, we're having teams of people build chronologies, we're doing depot prep, we're doing these things already, and it's not really even traditional ECA. It's usually further on down the road. But, our mentality is that if we can get you that information earlier, we should. There's no reason why we would wait to give you a timeline, why we'd wait to give you important people. As Tom mentioned, that most cases are about 50 documents. So what if we could just get you those 50 documents in the first couple days? Now, most people would say, we might not even need them, or we're not putting together chronologies till the end, but there's no reason to wait on getting it to you if we have that information. So it's just about empowering you to get as much information about your case as quickly as possible, and getting those insights about everything, about who the important people are, what events happen that matter, and then getting to those 50 documents that you really care about and that you're, spending the entire review trying to find.
So I'm going to throw us off a little bit, because you said something there that kind of sparked another question for me. And the question is, why wouldn't someone want the chronology until the end of the matter? Why wouldn't you want all of that? I think I was talking to Tom yesterday, turning that data into the intelligence ahead of time. Why would you want to wait?
And, I think that the most common answer would be that, as your case starts out, you're still learning and you might want to, change things. But the answer is no, we want to get you that information as quickly as we can, so you can understand. And as your case pivots, or as you learn more information, as you learn more information, your case evolves and you move forward in different directions. And let's do that right away. Let's do that in the first couple of days. Let's get you that information you need so you can understand what's going on, and you can understand where your case pivots to or evolves to in the first 3 days, instead of 6 months, instead of, weeks down the road.
So it's kind of changing habits. Sorry, Tom.
I mean, I had early on met with a head of litigation for a med device company, and we had this conversation. We were at like a college parents weekend thing. We weren't there for business, but he just said, I know, I saw your profile on LinkedIn. I know what you do. Like, I'm really interested in that, and I said, and we had this conversation. I said, well, you're not like, you don't get your hands deep into the discovery because you're head, in your position, you want to know kind of broader strokes, like you want the broad brush strokes of what's happening in a new investigation. What would it be like to have all that information in 2 or 3 days? And he just said, this would change everything. Like I immediately want to know the chronology. I want to know what happened. It's in the data. So I think the answer to your question is no one would ever not want to know. It's a massive strategic advantage. Until everybody's using these tools, the ones who are will be way out ahead, on their matter, right? Again, it's not a button that you press and your case is over, but it's the closest I've seen to an easy button, where you're saying, okay, now I know a lot. Like if ECA was giving me 25%, of that breadcrumb trail, I think now we could be talking, about 50, 75, 80% of that breadcrumb trail. I mean, of course, it can only look at the data you give it, so if it's not, it's a garbage in, garbage out thing. You'll get as many insights as you can get from the data provided. But I've seen, Jim and I were talking yesterday about how we've seen data sets of just 8,000 documents that yielded almost every important player, that was in a matter, even though it was one custodian's data, because they were having these conversations. And so I just think, I think these types of tools are going to change what we're doing. We're not going back. This is a looking forward thing.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about that a little bit more, right? Everyone's talking about Gen AI. It's everywhere. There's almost every session at a conference. But most people still are still using keyword search. What's the gap there? What are we missing? How do you explain the value of Gen AI to someone who's just been burned by early TAR tools, or who just is like so into the TAR tools and is, hesitant to jump into Gen AI?
And, I think that a lot of it's that, we're used to doing things a certain way. We've used keywords, the reality is that we've used keywords without validation for a very long time. And everyone knows that they're terrible. Everyone knows that keywords are not getting good results. And the way that we get around that is by just simply not validating and not looking to see what we missed. So that way we're ignorant to what's going on. And that's just the way that it's been done for a very long time, because frankly, we almost had to. There wasn't really another reasonable option. We're not going to be able to throw, review teams at tens of millions of documents. So we need to cull down the data set in some way. And keywords were the best approach that we've had. But that's no longer true. And we now have solutions that are significantly better at culling down large data sets so we can get to the set that then we use for review, that are much, much better than keywords, can understand things like, abbreviations and slang and context, and foreign languages where, we put keywords in just one language. And if it didn't hit on that language, it doesn't hit on your words, and we lose that document forever. But then the other thing that really I think is a game changer is, as we talk about new data types and we are moving towards so many more chats and images and emojis and all of the different things that we see in Teams and Slack and text messages really do not fit within that keyword function, where people don't spell things the same way in chats. People don't refer to the same things. The context matters so much more. There's so many slang. There's so much sarcasm, where that really fits what AI does well. It fits the understanding how people communicate, understanding what people are saying in a non-traditional, not as clean format as what we're used to in the past. And so that's just another reason why we're going to be moving forward with using AI to solve more of these problems. But, we just still have to get out of, this is the way it's always been done. And my personal opinion is the way that happens is that people stop allowing the opposing parties to use keywords, because I get why people want to use keywords. It's a way to cull down your data set with zero costs, and what you miss is kind of not your problem. But at some point, we're going to not accept that as a way that other people are producing to us, because we know how much is being missed when they do that.
Awesome. Tom, any additions to that?
I would just say, in addition, I know there are a lot of fans of TAR and CAL, and those tools are still out there. They never had as wide adoption as they should have. But I do feel, to everybody who would say, well, let's use a hybrid now and don't throw those things away, they work. I'm not sure that I agree with that. In fact, I'm sure I don't. I think that, there are like our ECI tool is very cost effective. You know what I mean? It's so much better in terms of, being able to break down specific issues, give you a rationale, a literal summary of why it's making a decision. Just in the face of that, tools that rely on, just advanced text analytics and not, kind of Gen AI, they're just too blunt right now. You know what I mean? I just don't think that I don't think there's necessarily a great place for those into the future. I hope that's a little controversial because I'm not here to sort of get along, you know what I mean? But I really do think that the advantages are so stark. And no, I don't personally know anybody in the industry who's done more of this work than Jim. And I think Jim feels very similar to this.
No one has ever been a bigger fanboy of predictive coding than I was and still am. I mean, predictive coding I lived and breathed that. I wrote a book. I went around and I told people about how great it was for a very long time. And I still stand by everything I said. But there's a number of shortcomings that it had. And we always knew that. It doesn't understand context. It can't find issues. It doesn't do foreign language review. It can't understand any documents that lack text. It doesn't handle certain document types. Those are just things that we knew. And that's still, not a knock on how well it worked at the time. But Gen AI does all of those things. And the difference between TAR and humans is pretty significant. There's a lot of things that humans still do better than TAR: issue coding, finding key docs, finding documents, and in low prevalence data sets. But we're at a point where there is nothing that generative AI does worse than a human first level reviewer. There's not a single task that a first level reviewer can accomplish better than generative AI. Not image review, not audio review, not redactions, not identifying PII, not issue tagging, not finding key docs. And that's never going to go back. Humans are not going to beat machines at classifying data ever again.
Before chat erupts, he did say first level reviewer here, right? You know what I mean?
I did say first level review.
Using his words carefully, and I completely agree.
Very big first level reviewer.
And not more than any partner at any law firm, and I've met some incredibly smart people. You know what I mean? No, you are. We still need subject matter experts. Exactly.
And I think what we have to differentiate is using human beings to classify documents, where their purpose is that they are looking at a document and classifying it as one thing or the other. They're not making legal decisions. They're not doing analysis. They're not doing case prep, and the people that are. And that role of a human being to classify data is just simply not going to have a place in the future.
Awesome. All right. So you mentioned PII, you mentioned multimedia. So let's talk about, because eDiscoveryAI has several solutions. So outside of just the ECI solution that you have, early case intelligence, because I want to make sure we stay that, and maybe we start to use it more often. But tell me more, especially given that we've got more data breaches happening. We had a huge one last week that affected tons of corporations. Let's talk a little bit about your privacy, and you've got a privacy AI solution, and you've got some other things in the works. So when you're identifying PII, but making it reviewable and actionable, let's talk about that solution that you've created, and why did you create it?
Well, and I think going into that, a lot of it goes back to this same old argument of these are problems that we've had historically. These are problems that we've struggled with. PII has been a pain. We've for a while now, we've had great ways of identifying social security numbers, and we've got a lot of good methods to extract PII from spreadsheets and certain data types. But we've really struggled in extracting PII from unstructured data, from emails, from chunks of text, where there's a form that's filled out, or there's an email that has discussions that contain PII within it. Those types of things have been really, really difficult, and those are the types of things that AI does really well, is understanding that information that this discussion is about a medical condition, that this person is referencing a medical condition about another person. That type of thing that is just historically a really big challenge. Again, we see a reason why AI can fit that use case really well, and we went for it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we saw, Jim and I saw that there was a pivot in our industry. Discovery's been growing for a long time in terms of like getting outside. We got into compliance. We all got into privacy. These were things that were still happening at the legal, department at corporations, and we were dealing with we got really good at dealing with, data, especially unstructured data in the industry, and like cyber incident response is one of those areas that we stepped into as an industry, and that we're uniquely, qualified to do, right? We need to look at all these documents. We need to identify, where this is. And I agree with Jim. AI is very good at it. Regular expressions will take you so far. Some legacy tools will take you so far, and still teams of human reviewers need to get in there and look at that. AI does essentially a better job of doing that faster and more efficiently, and very accurately. So it's and the more I learn about cyber, the more I think this is never going away. I mean, there are.
Wow.
We could have a whole session on things that they already do at like net diligence and all that I think are fascinating. But let's just say that for every big corporation in the world that wants to protect their data, there are big corporations out there that are trying to get into that data, and put a ransomware attack on them. So it's unfortunately a problem that will continue. I think we can take some of the sting out of that problem with tools that help to help to get the data mining work done efficiently and quickly, and minimize the problems that we're having. So I think and I completely agree with Jim on the multimedia side. I mean, this is foreign language documents, images, video, audio have always been a problem in discovery. Sometimes we agreed to skip them. Sometimes we agree to have some methodology to sort of cordon them off. AI doesn't really mind, going through an audio file and basically listening to it and giving you, an answer on it. So yes, I think that it was natural that we moved into those areas because they were needs that were there.
Awesome. All right. I know we've got a few minutes left, so I want to talk also about your multimedia, which you've touched on a little bit. But can you tell us more about how you're helping teams get their arms around that, like Teams and Slack and Zoom now has chat and everybody has a chat. So can you talk about that a little bit more? And emojis, because ACEDS, our Midwest chapters did a whole series on emojis, which was huge, very heavily attended and a huge success. So let's talk a little bit about all of that.
Right. And I think that, we've seen that data's changed, that, we're moving away from just that traditional, email as a main form of communication. And I mean, man, I feel bad for anyone collecting data because there's just so many data sources out there now. Yeah. And I mean, as an organization, we do a lot just to limit our, access to different data sources because it creates so many complications. But when you have chats and teams, and what a lot of the newer forms of communication really are more chat-based, more casual, more, a little bit more like people sending text messages has been. And that's just something that we've always struggled with keywords, because keywords are really bad at that. And even, reviewers are not really great at reviewing text messages because there's always a lot of slang. There's always a lot of context. It's difficult to understand how some people talk as their inside language and their friends chat. I mean, honestly, my friends chat about fantasy football. We're going to a lot of things that just won't make sense to a normal person, right? And AI is just really, really good at that. It's good at understanding the conversations. It's good at understanding different slang, abbreviations, acronyms, context. It's really good at getting sarcasm and jokes as well. So those types of things just, AI is uniquely suited to handle some of the problems that just are becoming more and more prevalent in today's data sets.
Yeah. So a couple of last questions, and I know we're almost at time, but what advice would you give to the ACEDS community, right? We are made up of forensic investigators, project managers, lawyers, litigation support, document review, staff attorneys, all types. If they're looking to level up and AI may be the path, what's your advice to them? Where do they start? How do they avoid complicating everything?
I think AI is one of the best opportunities we've seen in our lifetimes, and I think that the impact of it is going to be a lot more significant than even is being discussed. And I think that the path forward is to be the one that's good at that, be the one that understands AI, be the one that embraces it. And the cool thing is, it's really is not something that is outside of anyone's skill set. If you are interested, if you try it, if you use it, if you test it, see how it works. I've seen a lot of people, and the only real skill that they all share is that they're all willing to try it. They're all interested in learning new things. And so this is an opportunity that if you're interested in learning, if you want to try things, you're going to have opportunities that weren't there before. And I'm seeing them faster than really any other time, in this industry. And so I'd say, be the one that tries it, be the one that runs across a case. I've seen the number of people that have been subject matter experts talking at conferences that said, I just spent 2 hours one afternoon running some documents through an AI review tool, seeing the results and understanding how it works. That's how you learn. You're going to need to try it. You're going to need to get your hands dirty, and that's going to create a lot of opportunities in your career path.
Awesome. Tom, anything else you want to share or build off of that?
No, I think Jim said it. I just wrote on my, in my notes, like, use it, right? Because it's available. It was hard to just use TAR, right? You'd be like, well, I want to learn more about it. You had to kind of work with somebody on that. There were tools and systems, but like Gen AI is all around us, right? And I use it every day, and many of us do, right? So the leap to using it, in a case, it's not hard. There's a lot of readily available tools, not just ours. You know what I mean? Like, and I agree with Jim. Like, hopefully people speaking on panels aren't speaking theoretically, they're speaking from experience, because it's really accessible. You use these tools, compare them, be critical, about what you're seeing there, but also, experiment with them. And I think that's the way to go.
Awesome. All right, we are at time, but before we go, Tom, do you want to share, where can we find eDiscoveryAI? What's next? What's going on that people should be aware of? And then Jim, if you want to add anything to that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. We really appreciate it. We will be have a big booth at ILTA. We'll be there with bells on. Please come see us. I'm sorry, I don't know the booth off the top of my head, but you won't be able to miss us in our bright, magenta shirts and all that. So come by and see us. See Case Elements. We'll also be at Net Diligence in Philadelphia, featuring our new privacy suite, which I'm really excited about. So just reach out to us, and we love to have. I hope you can tell we like talking about this.
I think you definitely do. Jim, anything else?
I will say yes. No, that's where, if you have questions, if you're interested, come talk to us. I really am not joking when I say that every second that someone comes and talks to me at a booth means that I don't have to tell my wife about AI for that minute, because she's so sick of hearing it. If I can talk to other people about it, it's going to make her life better. So come by. If you're interested, ask questions. We are legitimately excited about every person that comes up that is interested.
And we've got Stephanie Clarkin just said, I hope you literally mean bells. I
was told it would be heckling. Yeah, so there you go.
ACEDS would be at booth 1513. eDiscoveryAI will be at booth 421. Please stop by, visit us both. ACEDS is finishing up its summer sale this week, actually tomorrow's our last day of our summer sale. So if you're interested in getting training, visit eDiscoveryAI is a huge affiliate partner with us. They just joined us this year, and so they're here for our community. I want to say thank you so much, Jim and Tom, for being with us, and can't wait to see you both at National Harbor. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, everyone.